Hi everybody, before we even start either of our meetings tonight, we have a little bit of a time crunch because we have a flag football game at 7. Our flag football coach, Nick Bertrando, is here tonight, and you will see later on, not in our first budget hearing meeting, but on our regular agenda, we are lucky enough to have Nick, who at the end of this school year will be joining us as a PE teacher in the high school, and he'll be leaving his post as social studies teacher. So either way, we still have Nick in the district, which was important to us. He's definitely a valued member of the Fredonia school community. Does a lot above and beyond in a lot of different ways for the district, and I won't get into all of those. But we wanted him to be able to get to his game, but I wanted to take a moment here to recognize Nick tonight and this transition that he's going to make and the service he'll continue to provide for the district. So
Nick, we're not in a meeting, okay? And we're not voting on this before I ask you this question.
Sure.
So you're kind of giving a comment, not really knowing if we're going to approve this. Okay? So it might be kind of embarrassing.
Fingers crossed, I guess.
Okay. But with that being said, I will say congratulations. Any comments?
Just, first off, the last 17 years in social studies has been absolutely amazing. At this point in my career, I think there's an opportunity for me to impact more lives, even more than I have now. I would be honored and humbled to carry on the strong PE tradition here that Fredonia has, while also bringing in kind of the 21st century type skills that students will need. And I look at it as a great opportunity to literally be the third person to occupy that office since this building has been built. Carrying on the proud tradition of Mr. Larson and obviously Mr. Connie. And to me, this is it's a dream come true, and it's an opportunity to have more impact on the student body of Fredonia.
Great. Thank you.
And I told my students they're not allowed to leave early and they have to stay the entire meeting, so just make sure they don't leave early. I have to. Thank you guys for your time. Appreciate everything.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
good luck at your game.
That being said, welcome to the Fredonia Central School District Board of Education special meeting budget hearing for Tuesday, May 7th, 2024. We start each meeting with a pledge to the flag, and we are lucky enough to have Anna Abitoy here, and is going to come forward over here and lead us in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anna? Deal's a deal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we have an agenda for this special meeting budget hearing. If I could have a motion to approve that agenda. Mr. Hawk and Ms. Valporta. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We start out with a review of the required annual meeting documents. Ms. Hines-Morrison.
Everything that has been put out already, everyone has seen, but just as a quick review, we do have a legal notice that has run in the Observer up until now 3 times, April 2nd, April 13th, and April 27th. It will run again the 11th as well, and that was approved back in March. And then just the other piece that's important every year to go over is the qualification of the voters. You must be a U.S. citizen, you must be at least 18 years of age or older on the day of the vote, and as a residency requirement, you must have legal residency of 30 days or more in the school district on the day. Those are the only qualifications, and that's our legal notice.
Any questions on any of that? Next, we have the tentative budget for the 24-25 school year. Mr. Forbes.
So this evening's a budget hearing, and one of the quirks of New York State changing the law a number of years ago to include the tax caps and the three-part budget requirements is that you have to have a hearing. And the quirk of it is that you're having a hearing essentially after you've adopted a budget, so there's really no give or take, there's nothing you can change. So basically, this is the same presentation that you adopted at the last meeting, and we'll just run through it real quick for public information. So our proposed budget summary right now, we're at a total of $36,428,315. That represents a 5.13% increase in spending over the 23-24 school year. In the drafts that the board saw, we started at 6.71 and worked it down to 5.13 over the 4 meetings. In terms of our breakdown of expenditures, as the portion of the budget, the percentage of the budget, you can see the distribution here. Salaries are 50%, benefits are 20%, and in general conversation about budgets, you always assume that the salary and benefits are somewhere in that 65 to 75% range, and we're sitting right at 70. Equipment, materials, and supplies, contractual expense, policy services, that service are listed there, comprising the other 30% of the budget. Salary and benefits overall were up 5.78, 4.88 in the instructional area, and 9.12 in the non-instructional area, which included the Salary Support Staff Association adjustment, and also the benefits are up 4.59%. In this proposal, we have 5 staffing resignations and retirements. We've included the positions that were funded by the American Rescue Plan funds up through this year. It also includes the replacement of 4 of the 5 staff. One of them was eligible for incentive, that's in there. We've increased the music position 2.4 to 1.0, and we've added a 1.0 social worker. Those are estimated off the FDA contract at step 6, 30 hours of the master's. The next slide shows the distribution of salary and benefits. See the big bump there, percentage-wise, is the employees' retirement system, 25%, but because of the dollar value, it looks bigger than it is. So about 80,000 there. Health insurance, we're in a consortium with Chautauqua County School Districts, and we're up 5.2% there, which includes the raise for the plan and then some adjustments where people have picked up family plans where they get single for it and that kind of thing. So overall, 4.6% in that category. Equipment, materials, and supplies were actually down. This includes everything instructional and non-instructional across the district. 2.46% decrease. Equipment were down 33,000. Materials and supplies were up 9,000. Next slide just simply lists the requests across the departmental budgets. One of the things I think I had mentioned last time is that we allow the principals to have the flexibility to move their dollars between textbooks, contractual supplies, materials, and supplies and equipment. So in some years, looking at this year, we like to give you an example, you might have a bump in instructional requests for equipment, where they may have a decrease in one of the other categories based upon their particular building needs. Contractual expense in BOCES services overall were up 4.75%. A very slight decrease in BOCES services, which is a reflection of a couple of our high-cost special ed students moving out of the district, and also contractual expense were up 11%. Major changes in BOCES services, alternate education, the WAVE program, which is our remote learning. We've had an increase this year in the number of students participating at the high school level for that. Occupational education, the VOTEC services were up from 62 slots current year to 65 projected, which is a good thing because we have students going into those type of programs. And central data processing at BOCES, which encompasses our computer services for guidance and technology, are up 28,000 there. Majors changes in contractual expense, athletics are up 96,000. That's partly due to the increase in the busing through the new contract with First Student, and also we've added the unified and flag football as examples where we need additional referees and transportation there. District tuition would be your high cost or students that have services that we can't provide outside the district, and we are up a couple students there, so 17,000. Contract cleaners is our middle school cleaning staff. They're up 25,000 there. Their contract is tied to New York State prevailing wage, which is based in part on New York State minimum wage, and so there's a bump there as a result of that. And our transportation, we're up 253,000, which is a 2.99% increase over the estimated cost for 23-24. Debt service interfund transfers. This is our interest and principal on our current debt. You can see we're up very minimally there, 4,250 as as a group, actually down 75,000 or 65,000 in the current debt service. And then as part of the potential of a project down the road, we built in 75,000, which would be an interfund transfer to our capital account to handle any front-end debt that may occur because of that. Next slide is simply a breakdown of the debt service summary for 2021 through the proposal of 2024-25. You can see the projects broken down into principal and interest moving left to right. On the revenue side, in any budget, the revenue and fund balance needs to equal the expenditure side, so these total up to the same $36,428,315 budget. Our distribution here is state aid and our tax levy in the middle column, the proposed 24-25 column, make up the bulk of our revenue stream. 49.11% is state aid, 47.11 is the tax levy, so the remaining 3 to 4% is local sources and fund balance. You can see on the next slide the distribution again of that. So our local sources are 1.45 and fund balance is 2.06 of the total budget. Big ticket items, as I mentioned, the addition of the ARP funded teaching positions, occupational education, BOCES, we had to bring in the iReady and Ingenuity computer services, which is for student improvement. That was ARP fund up through this year, so we had to bring that in. Mention the retirement system, transportation as well, and the out-of-district placements. Within this budget, we do have a capital outlay project for $100,000. The scope of this would be blacktop at Wheelock School. For every $100,000 project, if you're doing outside work, you need $10,000 of inside work. So that'll be classroom flooring replacement at Wheelock School, and then there's also the required New York State architect's fees as part of that. Tax levy limit, we were set at 1.71. This budget proposal, and I missed the decimal again, is not 171, it's 1.71. There is one minor change on this slide. If you were to go back and compare it to the last slide, there was when I finished the BOCES submissions, there was one small amount that I had an administrator that I had to move to instructional. Didn't change anything in the budget, didn't change the BOCES cost, didn't change the total, but what it did change is our compliance with the administrative cap, which dropped from being 15,000 and change under to 13,000 and change under. Next slide is the tax levy limit. You can see where we are at in comparison to the levy limit in the middle column. So 1.71 was our maximum, we're at 1.71. Our 5-year tax levy average is 1.34%. Next slide is just some comparative data on our budget going back to 2015-16. And you can see we're at 5.13 increase for 24.5. The next slide after that is our comparative tax levy, and you can see 7-year average increase of 1.17, a 3-year average increase of 1.90. And finally, the projected tax rates, and you can see the middle column and the right-hand column, that's the budget vote for the current school year versus the final levy for the current school year. So there is some fluctuation once we get the assessed values and equalization rates in. Dollar per thousand in the town of Pomfret is 132,000. 1% on the tax levy is 168,000, and 1% on spending is 364,000.
So, Mr. Forbes, the big takeaway on this is that we're asking the taxpayers for 1.71% higher taxes this year than last year.
Yep.
And considering inflation and taxes going up everywhere else, 1.71. 1.71. Okay.
And we're complying with the tax cap.
Excuse me?
And we're complying with the tax cap.
And we're complying with the tax cap, but 1.71.
1.71.
Okay. I think that's you did a good job. Thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay. 1.71.
Not 171.
1.71. I'm very pleased with that. Any questions from the audience? Okay. Okay, so if there's no comments from the audience, our basic budget is $428,315. There will be an election for two 5-year full-term, two seats of 5-year terms, full term in office. Jerry Kenny, Marie Ann Fabiano, and Lisa Paul Fortna are running for those positions. If I could have a motion to approve the propositions to be used in the voting machines for the 24-25 school year, budget vote on May 21st.
So moved.
Mr. Marshall, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Bell. Any questions on the proposition? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Now, if I could ask for a motion to recess the special district meeting until May 21st at 2 o'clock when voting begins.
So moved.
Second. And Mr. Johnson. Any questions on that? Voting starts at 2 and voting will end at 9 o'clock. And we will be there to certify the results. So if there's no questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. This meeting is recessed at 6:24. But that is just our budget hearing. As Mr. Petrangelo said, you guys stick around, guys. So, for the regular meeting, we're going to move right into that, which is immediately following our previous budget hearing. We have an agenda for this meeting, and it's a consent agenda, so adoption of the consent agenda upon a motion and second affirmative vote by members present approves each and every item so designated. So if I could have a motion to approve the agenda plus approve all the items within the consent.
Second.
Ms. Paul Fortna and Ms. Bill. Any questions on the agenda? Does anybody want to pull anything from consent out? Okay. If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. So the board has reserved this time to hear comments from the audience. Those wishing to address the board are asked to stand, give their name and address, limit their comments to 5 minutes or less per individual group. Concerns and comments during this session should be directly related to items listed on the proposed agenda for this meeting. Is there anyone who would like to address the board? We've got a microphone here.
So my name is Justin Sherlock, 6 Castile Drive. My comments relate to the previous workshop. I don't know if I can comment on that right now. Or just, okay. So I just want to address a comment respectfully at the end of the first capital project workshop where the outdoor athletic fields were ranked not once but twice by a board member. The rankings went as followed: baseball, softball, soccer, football. I disagree and would just like to offer a new perspective in terms of rankings and priority, starting with safety. There's no sport that plays on a more unsafe field than football. The simplest way I can describe it is like running on the surface of a golf ball, where no two spots are there at the same level. I would be pressed to imagine there's another sport in this district with a higher number of documented injuries directly related to the quality of the athletic facility on which the sport is played, specifically lower body injuries. In our staff's short time coaching at Fredonia, I have personally filled out a number of accident reports commenting on the injured athlete's assertion that their partial patellar tendon tear, ACL, MCL tears, and countless high and low ankle sprains resulted from running or quickly changing directions in a low spot on the field. In addition to the unsafe state of the field, bad weather only exacerbates the unsafe playing conditions. All home games during the spring COVID football season needed to be played at our competitors' field due to the state of our field. We have even had games delayed multiple times where the visiting team refused to play until holes in the field were filled in. Those games could not begin until a maintenance worker was able to bring buckets of dirt to the field and fill in the holes as the coach would walk around and point to them. The school district has a glaring known liability and is considering an athletic facility that does not include a safe football field. And I'm concerned of what happens on the day where a parent decides that the school covering their child's medical costs is not enough. Is our district putting themselves at risk by continuing to avoid addressing the most dangerous facility, even at the most basic level? Speaking on the numbers, our football facility currently serves 201 kids in this district, from midget league to varsity, including flag football. Finally, I'd like to address the facility possibilities and what our district is looking at versus what we need to be looking at. The Grand Island facility that this board is pushing for primarily supports baseball and softball needs. What will soccer do in the fall when it starts to get dark earlier? The design of Grand Island fields allows for lighting for baseball and softball, but the closest lights are more than 30 yards away. There is also no seating for fans. Grand Island built their stadium, track, soccer, and football before they added the multi-use field this board is looking at. The soccer football field is used for overflow, extra practice space, and is not conducive to an acceptable game day experience for athletes and their fans. The goal of multi-use fields is to benefit as many athletes as possible. Having the ability to play baseball and softball at the same time is a preference, not a necessity. After attending all the meetings with the architects, it has become clear that Fredonia will have to do long-term planning, and the desire of other coaches to have standalone fields is not a legitimate possibility. The only way to get the best results for our kids is for us coaches to be creative and cooperative with each other and get a facility that is safe and inclusive for as many athletes as possible. What has become clear is the fact that we will need grass fields mainly for practice for years to come. In terms of school districts comparable in size, we can look at Medina and Cheektowaga, which have facilities with smaller footprints that are less expensive compared to the Grand Island and have, as per Medina's football coach who I spoke with yesterday, it all comes down to scheduling. They stack double headers. Both Medina and Cheektowaga stack double headers on the same day with their current facilities. In summary, a shared athletic facility and grass practice fields would resolve injury liabilities for hundreds of district students and make the most sense financially. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board?
Hey, just for clarification, and when is it that you ranked, you mentioned something about the ranking of sports?
Yeah, one board member addressed another one at the very end where she said baseball, softball, soccer, football, and then she said it again, and then repeated it, after she repeated it, said, well, that's who we've heard from.
Are you talking about this meeting?
The first board meeting I mentioned, the first workshop.
Oh, you were going to the first workshop. Okay.
Sorry, I thought I made that.
Yeah, okay. No, it's all right. That's why we're just asking for clarification. I didn't catch that. Okay.
And I don't think that there's consensus there.
No, I was trying to be respectful.
There's an idea there. We're looking at ideas.
Yep, no, I understand. I was just offering another.
In an early stage of this whole process, but thank you for your thoughts. I appreciate that. So moving on, we have the minutes from our last regular meeting of April 23rd as submitted. Could I have a motion to bring those to the floor for approval?
So moved.
Ms. Gullo and Ms. Balporta. Any questions on those? If not, all those in favor of approving signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the approval of the revised substitute rates for the remainder of the 23-24 school year. If I could, we talked about these at the last meeting, but we did not approve those. If I could have a motion to bring those to the floor for approval, please. Hawk, and a second.
Second.
Mr. Marshall. Mr. Ziliak.
Yeah, so we had a lot going on last meeting. It sort of appeared that these were in consent, but as we reflected on the meeting, they were not. There are no changes here. This is the exact same figures that were presented at that last meeting. And we just felt like we wanted to make sure that they were officially approved by the board without any question or confusion.
Any questions on that from the board? Okay. If not, all those in favor of accepting these revised rates signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the approval of a resolution for the 24-25 BOCES Services Commitment Statement. If I could have a motion to bring that to the floor, please.
So moved.
Mr. Johnston, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Gullo.
Mr. Ziliak.
Yeah, so pretty standard yearly resolution here, as you know, and as Mr. Forbes was talking through his budget items tonight, a lot of those are connected with BOCES. We purchase service through BOCES, and this resolution just authorizes us to continue to do so. One of the major advantages of BOCES is that when we spend money with BOCES, we get aid back on that money. So it's advantageous for us. They also often have services that would be hard for a district to do or provide individually. So it's a win-win relationship, and this just solidifies that we'll be working together again next year.
Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, if I could have a motion to approve the resignation of Mary Days, who has 26 years of service to this district. If I could have a motion for that, please. This is with regret, by the way. Yes, Ms. Gullo.
Second.
Ms. Paul Fortman. Mr. Ziliak.
Yeah, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Paul Hamus in a minute, but I've appreciated getting to know Mary over the last 3.5 years. I had an opportunity last year to go into her class. When I was just stopping by one day, they were reading the book, so I ended up reading the book, and then I went back and did a couple activities with the students, and I really got a sense of who she is as a person and an instructor, and it was just a nice moment for her and I to bond a little bit over instruction. I also wanted to point out that although Mary has 26 years in the district, she has been in education for 40 years, which either way you look at it is quite an accomplishment on both sides, but we do appreciate her service to Fredonia. Anything you wanted to add, Ms. Paul Hamus?
Yes, as Dr. Ziliak said, yes, in the profession for 40 years, in first grade, fourth grade, fifth grade. She's provided opportunities for our students to listen to guest speakers, one of which being her son, who recently graduated from the Naval Academy. Field trips to lighthouses, very historically significant opportunities for our kids. So certainly impacted countless students. We wish her well in the next endeavors.
Anything from the board? I will say that I appreciated her, and it is with regret that I see her retiring, because she did have a very big impact on one of my daughters, and I appreciated everything she did for her. So with that, all those in favor of approving the resignation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the approval of the appointment of Nick Petrando to a probationary teaching position in the phys ed and health tenure area. Can I have a motion to approve that, please?
So moved.
Mr. Johnston, and a second.
Second.
Mr. Marshall. Mr. Ziliak, I know we've addressed this prior to the meeting, but just for the record on the meeting.
Yeah, just to summarize, Mr. Bertrand was here earlier. We recognized him as he was trying to get to a 7 p.m. flag football game, which he coaches, so we appreciate him doing that, as well as coaching basketball. A definite asset to the district all the way around. We are happy and proud to have him continuing with us here in Fredonia in a slightly different capacity, PE as opposed to social studies. Either way, we're happy to have him and look forward to him continuing to do great things for our district. Mr. Paschke, anything you want to add about Mr. Bertrando?
Yeah, he's certainly going to be missed in the social studies department, but extremely welcome in the PE department. I'm looking forward to, we have two very innovative phys ed teachers that replace two outgoing, veteran, amazing teachers. But I think they're going to bring many new things to our phys ed department that we haven't done in the past. I'm looking forward. They both actually already have ideas for some things that they're bringing forward, so I'm looking forward to where it goes. So yeah, what a pleasure to have Mr. Bertrando as a PE teacher. I think he's going to be perfect for the role.
Questions from the board? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the approval of the appointment of Ian Joint to a probationary teaching position in the mathematics team area. If I could have a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Mr. Marshall.
Second.
Mr. Khan, thank you. Mr. Ziliaks.
Yeah, so it's always great to bring an experienced teacher on board new to the district. One of the things about Mrs. Joint that we really appreciated is a very positive energy, positive attitude, enthusiasm for what she does in the classroom, coupled with that 11 years of experience. She currently teaches at Brockton, so it's always tough when neighboring districts are competing for a smaller and smaller pool of candidates. However, at the end of the day, we're looking for the best candidate for Fredonia, and she fit the bill in the interview process. We look forward to all the good things that she will do within the math department. Mr. Paschke, anything you'd like to add?
Really more of the same. I'm pleased to welcome her to our district. She lives in Fredonia. She moved relatively close to the school. She can walk to school every day. But you know, bringing that experience is a wonderful thing that I think since COVID is something that we've been able to get a little bit more frequently as people move from district to district and bring their experiences with them. So it's nice to have someone who has 11 years under her belt. She does have that great enthusiasm, and I think she's going to be a great fit with our math department.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. So, we're at the end of the meeting already. The board has reserved this time to hear comments from the audience on any issue. Is there anyone who would like to address the board on any issue? Yeah, Brandon.
Sure. Hi, I'm Braden Kerman. I work for the Observer. This is good, I promise. So you just approved Nick Bertrando switching over to PE, and I just wanted to give my perspective. Nick took over as the varsity coach about 3 weeks after I took over as a sports editor for the Observer. I worked very close with him throughout my entire time doing that, and I still do when I can get upstairs and cover a game. One thing that I learned when I was running a department is I can teach you anything but to care. I can't make you care. And I think that Nick Bertrando is probably the coach that I know around here that cares more than anybody. And so it's not just that he's qualified. You can see on the wall, obviously he's qualified to teach you about personal fitness, but he's definitely somebody who cares. So I think it's a great decision. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Okay. If not, Mr. Ziliaks.
Yeah, just a couple of quick things from the superintendent reports. One of the things that we continue to work on in the district is long-term planning. We have a district planning team that's coming together to process information. You might remember probably about a month or so ago now, we did put out a survey asking people what they perceive as the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for our district. We had about 300 people respond to that survey, and the team has been kind of working through that information and really trying to hone in on what are the topics that seem to be themes in that information or trends in that information, and then how can we build a plan around those items. At this point, we have narrowed it down to This is probably too big of a list to include all of this in the plan, but we continue to pare down and refine this list. But just to give you a little bit of a sense of the topics that we are looking at, again, to long-term plan, to improve, to really be thoughtful about our next steps as a district, include communication, curriculum review, mental health / social emotional learning, community partners, reading instruction, facilities, which we'll talk about next, assisting struggling students, student skills and needs, process efficiency, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and staff efficiency. So typically in a long-term plan, you try to not bite off more than you can chew, and most of the research says that 4 to 6 initiatives are usually the most manageable. I know we have more than 4 to 6 things on the list currently, so again, part of the job of this group that's together is to really hone in on what is the priority in the moment. At the same time, that doesn't mean that we won't make improvements or adjustments to other things in the district. They just might not be part of the larger strategic plan blatantly or overtly. So I just wanted to update people on where we are. Our district planning team was supposed to meet tomorrow, but we postponed for a week to give us a little more time to process some of the information from our last meeting. We'll probably meet 2 or 3 more times prior to the end of the school year, and it seems like we are on track to have a plan in place either by the end of the school year or earlier into the summer, and at least some of that group would come here and share this information with the Board of Education. As was mentioned, we continue to work also on our facilities and our capital project. At 4 o'clock today, we met with representatives from Young and Wright, also some of our financial advisors, and talked a lot about what we are looking to do as a district, while keeping in mind all of this ultimately has some type of cost to our taxpayers. And at the end of the day, I'm going to summarize and say that we recognize the need for a variety of what is being called the warm, safe, and dry maintenance items, and really making sure that we're keeping our facilities up to par, just at that very basic level. Things like roofs, electric systems, heating, cooling, those types of items. But we've also heard, again, we had another survey that went out. We had about 250 people respond to that. And we heard about needs in our music department. We heard about needs in terms of athletic fields. That includes soccer, football, softball, baseball, as well as our tennis courts, and other pieces of the puzzle included in that feedback. So what we're grappling with right now is how do we do this in the most responsible way, the most thoughtful way? How do we bring something forward that addresses as many of these concerns as we can, while still keeping in mind that we don't want to overburden our taxpayers? I think today we came to a little bit of clarity around what that might look like and how much that might cost, and that this conversation will continue. I don't know if any board member wants to share anything else about our conversation from 4 to 6:03 today.
Just that it was productive. I think we learned a lot. We're able to actually get some information and numbers that were super helpful.
And I would say, I think the workshop format, the opportunity to really, I mean, we spent 2 hours and we're really talking through options, getting more information. I think it's really becoming a lot more tangible in terms of what's realistic and what the options are. And, you know, there were, you said 9 options on the table. We had come 3, I mean, this is very much, you know, in motion, and as we get more information, obviously we'll be able to really hone in on it. But I think it's a great format for us to discuss and engage.
I agree with all of that, and just want to also say, I know sometimes there are misunderstandings of what the committee may be saying, but that we have an open mind, no one on this board came into this with any kind of preconceived idea of what would be prioritized over something else. We are in the gathering information stage, and to say anything else would be inaccurate.
I also appreciate we have some reps from football here tonight and other sports as well. We had a couple gentlemen from our music department, so remember that those workshops are open to the public. There is not necessarily any time built in for public comment, but I think just being here and hearing some of the discussion that's happening is helpful.
And along with that, I think that one of the things that we really need from the public is feedback, and feedback of what's important, what isn't, and also this dollar number. And if anyone has any ideas that they'd like to discuss, please approach a board member. Thank you, Mr. Ziliaks. We just need as much feedback from our community as possible to make this successful. So, and I think that was one of the recommendations from other superintendents who have gone through capital projects like this, is that the more feedback we can get from the community, the better that we are. So, appreciate that. Okay?
Do we have a date for our next workshop?
We did not. I'll circle back to them. I think we meant to do that this evening, but we got a little short on time.
Okay. So the next regular Board of Education meeting will be May 21st, 6 o'clock, here in the high school library. I believe that will only be executive session.
I anticipate that we'll have a few hiring that I would like to get off the book.
Okay. So we're not doing anything on the 28th then? Okay, so, I don't think that,
Go ahead.
okay, so the 21st is the night of the budget vote.
Correct.
So that would be a 6 o'clock meeting, and I believe that there is a concert.
And those are in flux, it has to be scheduled.
So where is the conflict here?
So, at one point, we had a concert on the books that was moved to avoid athletic conflicts. However, now on the rescheduled night, there's actually more conflicts than on the original. So, in a conversation with Mr. Bennett today, he was looking at options and recognized that he'd like to have a concert on a night with as least conflicts as possible. So there might be some adjustments here. I don't know where exactly it'll land.
Okay. Now, if that concert were to occur on the 21st, that would be at 7 o'clock. Our meeting would be at 6 o'clock. We try and get through.
In my mind, in terms of the actual agenda of our meeting, it would be very brief.
So, Ms. Palaforte, were you going to be okay with the 6 o'clock on the 21st?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought.
I was saying, when you were asking about the concert, that the concert was not
I-
on the 21st.
You had concerns, and I thought it was, you had a conflict.
Nope, it was
So
not the concert.
is everybody okay with the 21st?
Yes, but Mr. Aldrich, you referenced the 28th. We don't have any meetings scheduled for that
No,
day,
and
correct?
that was a mistake on my part, because I thought that during the agenda, we had discussed the 28th. Yes. Okay.
Is that budget night?
21st is budget night.
So then we come back to approve the budget at 9 o'clock.
To
Show
certify
up
the
at
budget.
6 and then we show up at 9.
You want to have donuts?
Usually gets
Maybe
chicken
you'll
part.
have
We haven't had that in a few years.
Yeah, what happened to that?
Andy left.
Okay. Okay, and then fourth, we have another. Yes, okay. Thank you. Now I'm all set.
All right, we got it.
And corrected after my mistake here.
So question, can we move up the meeting to 8:30 or 8 o'clock instead of having to come at 6, leave, and then come back?
We may have to wait till we know when the conflict is.
I think, and I think that
I guess I just would like to put that on the thought process. I mean, because it's a real interruption. to
I
the meeting.
understand.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
But that's, the problem is the concert.
Yeah, I felt like Mr. Bennett asked for 24 hours today to try to get clarity. And as you know, there's no set time for a board meeting. We can make the time whenever we want. And we don't set an agenda until the Friday before, so
Thank you. Thank you.
we can figure it out.
If that concert is not changed and stays where it's at, then it does make sense. Great. Ms. Hahn,
Yes.
do you have anything to add to tonight's meeting?
Well, I would be remiss if I did not just say that Coach Bertrando has changed the life of my son. We moved here when he was in 7th grade. He's made some wonderful friends, some of whom are here tonight. And most importantly, or as importantly, he joined basketball, and Mr. Bertrando has taught him character, discipline, giving all of your effort more than 100%, respect for other people. If you're on time, you're late. It's a little late in my life to be applying that one, but just in time for him. Sometimes the tough lessons is team over individual, and consequences can seem harsh to an overly permissive parent. I really appreciate what he does. I wish he was the parent to my kids sometimes. And he's been like a surrogate parent. And so I just want to say that because as my son graduates, it's my one opportunity to say we love Coach Bertrando.
Thank you. Mr. Marshall?
I can't tug on the heartstrings like that, so I'm enjoying the process of working with the board and the architects to try to figure out how do we service the needs of probably 92% of our students between music and athletics, and do so in a fiscally responsive way to the taxpayers, and it's a process. Just to echo Sheila's, nobody has any preconceived notions about what is more important or less. In fact, I think if anything, to a fault, this board puts everybody as the most important. So we are working on that, and we're trying to make that happen. It's been, I think Steve said, 60 years probably of some need in one way, shape, or form to our athletic facilities. So
This building came in 52 years ago.
so 52 years of need to our athletic facilities, but we're working on it. So patience and understanding.
Mr. Fox?
I don't have as much to say, but the capital project's been a fun process, and I look forward to seeing improvements to our district.
Ms. Balfour?
It's all the same. I think it's a great process, and it's great to dream and think, and, it will be difficult to make decisions.
I mean, same, and to the coaches, for sure, if anyone can come to the future workshops, if anyone is here, it's really open conversation, and for sure, nothing's being prioritized over another, but spread the word, get more people here to listen, because it's really quite informative and interesting, and fun.
Are you ready tonight?
Yeah.
Okay.
I enjoy going.
Because usually you go first.
No, this worked out great. There's great comments by all the board members tonight. I really enjoy working with this governance team. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Paskey?
We have resurrected the Alumni Wall of Fame. We took a hiatus during COVID. 2020 was not a good year for meeting.
2022 was kind of on the tail end of the planning that goes into it. We were unsure of where we were standing when we were doing the planning. So 2024, we're going to celebrate a lot more members than normal to kind of, I think, bring in the 2020, 2022, and 2024 together. So we're looking at 7 inductees. Going a little bit outside of the box this year. Normally we do it in June, very close to graduation. My personal preference is we not do that because it's a busy time. And it's also a hard time for people to travel. We have people coming from all over the place. So we're looking at a Friday in July. Things have cooled off a little bit. We're also changing from doing a venue at a restaurant and having a little dinner there and a little presentation. We're going to use our cafeteria, and we're going to dress it up very nicely. We're going to have it catered, and then we're going to have a little reveal on the wall itself. I think that would be a nice touch. So just something to look forward to in July. I wanted to give a shout out to Owen Daryl Sturback over the weekend. She held the coveted position in Western New York of the soloist for the Buffalo Youth Orchestra, which is the premier youth orchestra of Western New York. I mean, these are students going to Juilliard and Eastman and the best music schools in really our country. And she won, it's the only student who's ever done this from Fredonia, the ability to play the solo with this. She received a standing ovation from the huge audience and more flowers than I've ever seen. So the conductor actually had to carry all the flowers off the stage with her, but it was just a fantastic event. We got to go there with 16 or 17 orchestra members also were able to attend. AP exams are underway right now. We also were selected to do field tests in May, so we'll be doing English and Social Studies field tests, which always makes our teachers happy as we're preparing for Regents exams to lose another class for really a test that just tests out questions for future Regents exams. And then June 4th is our first Regents exam. We also are selected for that exam to turn in our exams to the state right away. So our teachers have to give the exam on the 4th, grade it right away, ship them in, because it's the very first exam for the new algebra curriculum. And the state collects several schools' exams just to see if all of their thoughts on how the test should go is how it actually went. So we will be participating in that. Decision Day we had on Friday, very well attended by our seniors, a fun day. We had breakfast together in the morning. One more quick shout out, softball tournament. Our kids ended up being co-champions of the softball tournament. The final game where they could have battled to be the champs got rained out. So the two teams were both crowned co-champions, but kind of cool. Jordan Lucas, one of our seniors, she's the pitcher. She got her 500th career strikeout during the tournament, which was awesome. And then just lastly, sorry, I got a lot today. We had our 7 Habits workshop continuation, our day 2 of 7 Habits, which is amazing. What was kind of cool is that we did as we finished up the 7 Habits, we used them right at the end. We had a short faculty meeting afterwards, and we hit 2 topics and kind of brought in and filtered in the 7 Habits to discuss the two big items. One of them is we're still looking at cell phones for next year and how we might be a little bit more prohibitive than we have been in the past, and also looking at changing from our block schedule back to a traditional schedule. Something that before COVID we spent about 4 years hemming and hawing back and forth about it. Since we've returned from COVID, we've noticed that more and more kids are struggling with focus, and 84-minute classes have been a little bit of a struggle for some of them. So we're moving in that direction as well towards a new schedule.
That's interesting.
Yep.
Ms. Pauline?
Yes, I would echo the same sentiment for our professional learning yesterday. The 7 Habits training was very well received among our staff. I was glad that you were able to join us for at least a portion of it, but just really thoughtful and productive conversations, and some mixing of teachers that don't ordinarily happen. So it was a great, very productive day. Speaking of testing, we have wrapped up state testing for ELA and math, and we'll be administering the new science assessment on Friday to our 8th graders and Monday to our 5th graders. So we'll see what that looks like, because it's the first year that we've done that in this format. We have Teacher Appreciation Week underway, going into day 3. I got something you didn't. So then that's going really well. And then we're wrapping up all of the details for our end of the year calendar. While we don't have quite as many events as maybe the high school does in preparation for graduation, we still have a very busy time between May with concerts and just end of the year field trips and things like that for middle school. So we're finalizing all of that.
Moving up. from 8th grade to freshman.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep,
Good deal.
and the transition from 4th to 5th, so lots of busy times.
Mr. Drawling.
So it is Teacher Appreciation Week, so I just wanted to quickly highlight teachers from each grade level. In the first grade, we're in the middle of a book study, learning more about the science of reading. I think that we have a good group of teachers in the first grade, and they want to continue their craft. And it's always inspiring to see teachers who want to continue to grow. So I'm happy to be a part of that book study as well. In the second grade, they're wrapping up their insect unit. It's a big thematic unit. We have paper trees in the buildings, we have real insects, gummy worms, and things like that. We have a lot of open houses at the end of this month, so that's in the second grade. The third grade, they're wrapping up their first year of computer-based testing, so that concludes tomorrow. They were masters at that. The teachers were, it's new, and anytime that there's something new, there's a little bit of hesitation there, but they did a great job. And in the fourth grade, we're wrapping up our Book Buddies program where we read to the first graders, and we're very excited to be touring the middle school in the next couple of weeks. And I also need your help. I found a time capsule, and I want to know when we can open this thing. So I was talking to Julie Clark, who's retiring, and apparently she planted a lot of trees around the facility, whether you know this or not, but she planted over 900 bulbs. She planted the rhododendrons that are within the inner workings of this complex here, and she planted a lot of trees, and she said it was like 25 plus years ago when she planted some form of cherry tree. They planted a time capsule with it as well. So she couldn't quite remember if it was like 20 years or 25 years when we could open it. But if you know anything about it, let me know. I know where it is. There's no markings on it, but I'm really like curious to see what's inside of it. So I'm going to do my research though. But if you hear anything about this time capsule, let me know, because I'm curious to know when I can open it. It's buried.
With the tree?
With the tree.
Okay.
So
Any observer?
I don't know what's in it.
Should we wear a pirate
I don't know.
costumes or something? Mr. Forbes, good to see you. You had your limelight tonight. With science class. If not, if we could get a motion to enter into executive session to discuss personnel.
So moved.
Ms. Harmon, a second.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, we are in executive session at 7:04. Thank you, everyone.
Always so.
I'd like to get mine signed by.
Oh, I see.
And I insist on signing this, and
We'll just change that grade to an F.